welcome to the American Awakening. Prepare to be awoken, folks. Prepare to be awoken.
Guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. Our toil, resources, and livelihood are all involved. So is the very structure of our society.
Yeah, I don't get that, man. They go through all this trouble to get here, and then come here and vote Democrat.
The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. It takes nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizen can compel the proper making of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals.
And good evening, folks. Welcome to the American Awakening. George's going to get mad at me because I keep looking over at the other monitor, but my camera's here. But I got to make sure the stream's working by looking over here. If y'all don't, there's a couple issues, microphone and things like that. So George has been real helpful with helping us get some stuff here for the show. So please feel free to go to our webpage, to our Indiegogo site, and to victimoftheswamp.com, and you can go there, and we have at the very top we have a link to the Indiegogo site. We also have a link to this broadcast, but if you're watching this broadcast, you don't really need to go there. I'm pulling up the page right now in the other screen. And what I've done today is I've put together for you something I think you're going to find pretty interesting. It's going to answer a lot of questions. It's going to hopefully create more questions. And I think you'll find this to be very enlightening. This is the American Awakening, and prepare to be awoke. Basically, let me start off with this here. So I've updated the victimoftheswamp.com to the Awakening page. I'm pulling that up right now, and I'll transfer over there in just a moment. The title of the article that I'm going to be sort of breaking down today is called, I'm just going to do a full, we'll do the full web page here. We'll do me in the partial one to begin with. There we go. All right, so here I have the American Awakening, and the article that I wrote is breaking news. Facebook partnered with founder of Shatternet to combat social media fake news. So I went over this last night. I was a little upset. I'm trying to quit smoking too, right? So you have to bear with me. A little stressed right now. But I think you'll understand the stress when you take a look at this, right? So let me go down through here and break this down. And I think I've done it in a pretty good way. I'm actually going to put it full page here for a moment. Well, we'll go over there when I get a bit bigger. So, as I said here, Facebook's chosen to clean up its image with fake news and election influence operations by partnering with the company that was chaired by the founder and owner of Shatternet. So, I'm not going to sit here and read that part to you. I'll break it down here real quick. From 2007 to 2010, I worked for a company called Dynology. I helped pioneer on Defense Department contracts with the Force Psychological Operations Group, what's called IIA, Interactive Internet Activities. And we didn't break any laws, or we didn't do anything wrong. I'm not violating any national secrets here. This information you'll find on our LinkedIn profiles with myself and the colleagues, the other analysts and such I work with. These are authorized things. I don't say anything specific we did, any location, any sites, or anything like that we may or may not have done. Um, this tool that I'm talking about, the ShadowNet, could be used for any number of reasons. iSight could be used for perfectly harmless reasons to help you collect data for the PAO to understand what posts are working and what posts aren't, right? But it has another, the ShadowNet, as the name would entail, has another more darker capability, which was built at the request of the government, but doesn't mean we use it. Just means we have that capability. We do that stuff all the time. And the company I worked for was called Dynology, and Dynology was owned by General James Jones. At the time, we started this at the very tail end of the Bush administration. I went to Iraq. I joined Dynology in October 2007. I stayed there for a year. We worked on the project, came back, and made it commercially available. Right. I actually came back working on other projects with Dynology, like over at the JMISC, over at MacDill. Don't go into anything we did there, but basically it was similar work. It was very similar work, right? But what Dynology ended up doing with the marketing slicks, with the promotion of the ShadowNet, that would be handled by other areas, by other people. Although I was always actively pursuing and encouraged to pursue potential sales leads for it. And actually, we had discussed using the ShadowNet, its capabilities to influence elections. So what I found interesting was that, okay, so Facebook, in its attempt to combat social media fake news, which literally, this screenshot here is from Facebook's website. It was the top section which I have it actually down here. It was the top section of Facebook's press release, right? Now, the press release about the partnership, and this was specifically the purpose was to ensure the integrity of worldwide elections. Oh my God, right? So I'm like, I wonder if this girl who posted this press release for Facebook, Katie Harbath, she's the Global Politics and Outreach Director for Facebook, and she's the one, as you can see right down there, Katie Harbath. She's the one that did this, and says, I didn't capture the whole screen thing. Facebook is investing heavily to prevent our service from being abused during elections. That's all I really needed to catch. That's the gist of it, right? Well, why would they partner with the Atlantic Council, whom is tied 10 ways to Sunday? I mean, with there's so many people that were involved with the Mueller indictments, with the Russian collusion and all of that. There were a lot of people who are directly related to the Atlantic Council, including I think it was a CrowdStrike or whatever the name of that company is, that did Hillary Clinton's did the forensics on Hillary Clinton's email server. A lot of people, right? General Jones happens to be the owner of Dynology, happens to be the chairman of the Atlantic Council at the time when this was happening, and he's been the chairman for quite a while, as I understand. So what I'm doing here is, after seeing this partnership with the Atlantic Council, while my former employer, NATO Supreme Allied Commander and Obama National Security Advisor, had been involved with any organizations to fix social media fake news, my spidey sense went into overdrive. I mean, seriously, right? So when I saw that Facebook had partnered with a company that is headed by the man I built the ShadowNet for, right? What could possibly be ethically questionable or wrong about that, right? So this is a little bit about the. So in this article, right, I put this is a screenshot of the Dynology ShadowNet flyer. This was back in 2008, 2009. You can see right down here where the mouse is. These are literally what appear to be screenshots of active engagements. This is Urkut. Urkut was South America's Facebook, YouTube's attempt at South America's, or Google's attempt at South America's, at a Facebook-like environment, social media environment for South America, right? This looks suspiciously like an active engagement in the Middle East, right? So this is the ShadowNet here. Information, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this is one of the ShadowNet things developed in coordination with the DoD IO community, ISI. ISI was the database component. ISI is a web-based solution with an intuitive user interface that allows for easy and accurate collection of data during online and social network surveillance and influence operations. So the father of the ShadowNet is who? Facebook, who's dealing with a $5 billion lawsuit right now, or fine from what is it, the FTC or somebody. They're dealing with all of these issues. Now think about it, folks. When I get into this a little bit further, you're going to see what I'm talking about. Here's another marketing slick. This is talking about information operations. Here's General Jones quoted this. If your opponent quoted Sun Tzu as your opponent, if your opponent is of a choleric temper, try to irritate him. If he's arrogant, try to encourage his egotism. If the enemy troops are well prepared after reorganization, try to wear them down. If they are united, try to sow dissension among them. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Sound familiar with what's been happening over the last couple of years? It's right out of their playbook. And I've been explaining, when somebody who built the ShadowNet and has been warning you guys, warning America, warning the world since 2014 when I saw that it was being used for influencing the Michael Brown riots, which Facebook confirmed during congressional testimony. Since like 2014, I've been speaking out about this. So when somebody who builds the ShadowNet is warning you about General Jones, Obama, and all of these people, McCain, and all of these people who are using this, who own this, or I'm not saying they're using it, who have this capability, when Facebook partners with them, maybe you should listen to this guy who's been warning you about this for the last couple years, to be honest. And you'll see what I'm talking about here. Actually, before I move on, right, let me go down to here. This is actually a screenshot right here of the actual ShadowNet, in case someone doesn't believe me or trust me. You have the home page, engagements, targets, right? Okay, we have a target. What's your target? Entity, personas. Personas are, fabricated social media accounts, right? So you can select your target. You can create a target. Target can be pretty much any individual you want. Your persona can be any individual that you want, right? So you create a persona that is spot on. I can make that persona look like he's coming from the Kremlin if I wanted to, and there's not a single intelligence agency that I was aware of at that time, or that I would imagine even now, could detect or attribute that persona to anybody other than someone at the Kremlin, right? Sound familiar? Okay. Oh yeah. Wouldn't want to leave out the fact that Paul Manafort, who owned 3EDC, was our partner at the time. Okay, now this is a screenshot of March 2004 of 3EDC.net from Google's Wayback Machine. What a cool name for that, right? So this is 3EDC. You can easily go to Google's Wayback and pull this up yourself. You'll get a screenshot. You can find a screenshot of their partners page, showing, even out of order, I mean, AirNet right? Comes before Dynology alphabetically, right? Campaign before Dynology alphabetically. Dynology is still listed as Paul Manafort's #1 preferred partner, right, for 3EDC. And on my interview with Ann Vandersteel yesterday, you'll remember my conversation about 3EDC, Paul Manafort. I talked quite in detail about that, so if you want to reference that, go back to that without, going down another rabbit hole and taking this forever. But, okay, so before I go on to the Facebook connection here, I want to show you one more thing, and this will help you understand what this is all about, right? This is called the Keys to the Kingdom. And when I was in Afghanistan working on the project, I'm actually going to do this. And, broadcasting right now, we even upped our bandwidth, but it's still pretty tricky. So I'm going to leave this playing. So this is me, and this is our chief, the director, or our chief, and for the IAA project that I was working on. Right? It's not a classified video. This was a going away party. And while we were working this program, we followed the law. We always did. There was a Smith-Mundt Act that we had to follow that prevented the State Department or the government, even the military had its own regulations preventing us from psyoping Americans, right? Which was easy to do until the birth of the internet, right? The internet comes along, and now how do you get information out, America's information, the stuff we want other countries to know about us, or even if let's say we wanted to run an influence operation, not saying I ever did that, but let's say you wanted to do that, right? Well, you need to be able to have more flexibility. If every single thing you're doing is being observed and double checked and triple checked and micromanaged by attorneys, it makes doing your job, it makes the rules of engagement extremely complicated. And keep in mind, this is in Baghdad. Every day we've got mortar rounds flying in over our head. The first day I was there, I had 2 or 3 mortar rounds land probably 50 meters away from me, blew me right out of my bunk. Right? It's no joke. So this was what I did is I made a gift for the outgoing commander here, and it was called the Keys to the Kingdom. And it was a fabricated Time magazine thing that I did with a picture of all of us. But the Keys to the Kingdom is what this is all about, folks, right? Because letting an IIA team have the keys to the kingdom means that we don't have any control, any regulations. We don't have the government looking over our shoulder every second. It would be our ability to be able to most effectively do our job. Rules of engagement, right? It doesn't matter if you're trying to use a gun or if you're using, influence operations, which every country in America has been doing for years, whether it's dropping flyers out of planes or what. Right? So being able to do your job is what we want to be able to do. So this 1 minute long. Take a look at this. I hope you can actually hear it. There we go.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you can't say you don't have the keys to the kingdom. With the bling bling.
That's awesome.
You get it, Jamil?
That's perfect.
You see up in the upper corner there?
Surgeons should be.
That took a long time to get that guy masked back behind it.
Where is that? Is that in a hooch?
That would be me walking around, all looking all nerdy. Then look at me, see the cameras on me, and I jump out of the screen.
Oh, there's a mirror behind
Turned
it.
out bad. So, no, that's in his office there. So I used that, Jamil had one on his thumb drive.
Secret squirrels don't like to be recorded. That's why I don't like to be here now.
It's the keys to the kingdom.
All right, folks. So that was the keys to the kingdom, right? That is what it was all about for us. We followed the law. We didn't violate American law. We didn't violate other country laws. We were very careful about that. What happened was, shortly afterwards, somebody decided to go and get the keys to the kingdom. And what they did was they modified the Smith-Munn Act around 2012, kind of sort of went into effect around 2013, which is what you're going to find kind of interesting coming up here shortly, right? So this girl, Katie Harbath, let's dig into a little bit about her, and I'm looking forward to a response from her, although I doubt very much I'm going to get one. I sent her a DM and this post. But let's take a look at Katie Harbath, right? Now, you would think, because of all of the stuff that Trump Republicans and like Tea Party people have dealt with since 2013, all the crap that we've dealt with, you would think she would be the person who was the in charge of politics for Facebook would be this extreme liberal, right? Everybody I've asked this question to has answered that in the affirmative. They pretty much figured her to be like figured the person in this job to be like just the most liberal snowflake you could possibly imagine, right? But this is where it gets interesting. Let's take a look at little Katie, right? Okay, she's the public policy director for global elections at Facebook. She worked also for a company called Digital Strategist, which she was a digital strategist at NRSC. Now, digital strategist in the IIA world, that's called an analyst, right? The people who analyze all the data from the profiles that you pull in. You analyze that, you build psychological profiles on your targets, and then you find weaknesses within your targets to utilize your socially engineered attacks. Okay, so yeah, she's a digital strategist at the I think the South Carolina Republican Party is what that was for. She worked at DCI Group, and she was a former associate e-campaign manager at the GOP. What? You're telling me that the people in charge of Facebook that have been destroying Trump Republicans, remember, I don't remember anything really negative happening to John McCain or Mitt Romney with their social media issues, right? Karl Rove, George Bush. Has George Bush ever had any issues with social media, with Facebook? You're going to see where I'm going with this here shortly. So she worked at DGI Group LLC. Wow, what's that? I was a little curious about that, right? So let's take a look at Digital Group LLC. It doesn't really even exist. It was created September 5th, 2013, which I find extremely interesting, being that was almost the exact same time that really the laws would have been, it would have taken about that time for the laws for the Smith-Munn Act, which basically allowed the State Department and other government agencies to use propaganda on Americans in our country. I'm going to actually pull up a section of the bill right here in just a moment. But keep in mind, that was about that same time. And a lot of people, Democrats and Republicans, said if you change the Smith-Munn Modernization Act, which the Smith-Munn Act was originally done in the early 40s to prevent the U.S. government from using psychological warfare or propaganda against its own people, right? We saw that as being a problem. So let's go back to so they modified that, and everybody said that this was going to be a problem. And so this company, oddly enough, in D.C., I believe, was created in 2013. She worked at, says page name hasn't been changed. And so let me look at here real quick for what the Smith-Munn Act is. This is literally the the first two paragraphs of the Smith-Munn Act. To amend the United States Information and Education Exchange Act of 1948 to authorize the domestic dissemination of information and material about the United States intended primarily for foreign audiences and for other purposes. But it was really focused at allowing to amend the protections to allow them, the State Department primarily, and others to be able to have very specific limitations and such set, but yet being allowed to do this now. So, Section 501A, the very first paragraph, the Secretary and the Broadcasting Board of Governors are authorized to use funds appropriated or otherwise made available for public diplomacy information. So, taxpayer funds to use for propaganda in America. That was a big problem. That was the keys to the kingdom right there, folks, let me tell you. Because when you're trying to use an influence operation in another country, let's say you're trying to influence someone in a damn cave in the Middle East, right? Well, chances are that person sitting in the cave with their laptop is actually hosted on a computer back in the States. And what are the chances on that any information that you put out, especially if it's using a fake persona or something, it's like impossible. How do you even do that, right? How do you put out information that an American is not going to potentially read? It's really, really impossible. It was a struggle, but we maintained the law, we followed the law, and I'm proud of that. And I actually believe our government did a great job with that. So the Secretary of Broadcasting authorized use of funds for public diplomacy information programs to provide for the preparation, dissemination, and use of information intended for foreign audiences abroad about the United States, its people, and its policies through press publication, radio, motion pictures, the internet, and other information media. The internet. Wow. Keys to the kingdom, folks. Social media, including social media. And through information centers, instructors, and other direct or indirect means of communication. Right? So here you got your congressmen and senators again, and I quote from South Park, up to shenanigans. I'm telling you, right? Because right after this happened, that happened. Now what do we got? So it's an interesting company. Let's take a look at it. Oh wow, look, Facebook's algorithms. Company that has one like, which we'll go into next. But look, the related pages algorithm for DCI Group LLC is the U.S. Department of State. Now, why would a person working for Facebook be connected to the Department of State? And that's not a direct connection by any means, folks. I understand that. I get it. Well, potentially it is. I don't know what Facebook's algorithms are that chose that as the highest probability of a match for the people associated to this website, but that's what it does, right? That's how it provides you that related page information. So let's keep that in mind. It's not a smoking gun, but neither was, the yellow cake. And we don't want to have a mushroom cloud. Let's not let any of that ever happen again, folks. So let's go down. Let's check out. So it's got one like. Oh my God, one person liked this since 2013. Actually, two people did. I accidentally liked it and then unliked it. I'm like sneaking around the page and I'm like, yo, no, unlike, right? So yeah, that was, I'm not good at this stuff, folks. So the one like happened to be by Kelly McCulloch Roberts. Okay, let's take a look at Kelly McCulloch Robertson. Okay, well, she was a partner at DCI Group, apparently the only one, because, she was, oh my goodness, former chief of staff at GOP. Wow. You mean the people in charge of Facebook's politics were the former chief of staff at the GOP? Oh my goodness, look at that. She was the former deputy campaign manager at Bush Cheney 04. Starting to make a little more sense why Facebook has been targeting Trump Republicans and kind of leaving all of the other establishment Republicans alone, doesn't it? Take a look at her about under work. She was partnered with DCI Group LLC, former chief of staff of GOP, former deputy campaign manager, Bush Cheney 04, former RDP and director of political education at GOP. Again, is this girl working at Facebook? I don't know. Former associate political director at White House from 2001 to 2002. Kind of looks like this person's got some influence there potentially. I don't know. Whoa, worked at Karl Rove and Company. No partisan politics here. Is this starting to make a little bit more sense to y'all folks? Is it starting to make more sense what you've been dealing with for the last several months with all the fake news? That pretty much wraps it up for this show. If you question anything about what I put on here, just go research it yourself. This is big, people. All right? This isn't a freaking joke. Go back to what I was talking about with Ann Vandersteel on Steel Truth the other day, yesterday, and go back to what I've been talking about for a long time. I've been warning you all about this for since 2014. And when a person warns you about this, about like General Jones and what he's doing, and then Facebook partners with him to combat social media fake news, you got to ask yourself, are we being played? Is that why Devin Nunes never calls me back? I've been pushing to meet with him since December 18th. Is that why Judge Janine stopped talking to me when she said right after she said she was contacting Devin Nunes? Is that why Judge Janine got fired within a few days of all of this happening as well? Very short time, maybe a couple weeks. Is that why Sarah Carter just stopped talking to me right after the last text I got from her back in the middle of first part of February, saying that they were going to be rolling my story out on Fox News? Did somebody on Hannity throughout the week, in that she had already spoken to Judge Janine, did one of the friends of an Atlantic Council member approach somebody that signs one of their paychecks, that signs Judge Janine's paycheck, did somebody who's very influential over Sarah Carter's work, did they tell her drop this? Because she certainly never gave me an explanation. And when you just stop talking to someone after you've just promised them that your story's being released next week and you've investigated it for a couple months, and then you just don't even talk to them anymore, that's the last thing you say. Did somebody influence her through at Fox or somebody? I don't know. Remember, people, this is not about politics. It's about profit. Don't think the people at Fox are any different than the people at MSNBC, ABC, CBS, NBC. They are no different. It's all about profit. It has nothing to do with politics. Politics is the content. You are the ratings. This is direct evidence of the worst collusion that I've ever seen in my life. The fact that countries like Russia, because Jones Group International, the Atlantic Council, they're the lobbying firm for NATO. And I'm not defending Russia in this. On a day that ends in Y, Russia is going to be psyoping and trying to influence America. And it's freaking wrong, right? It's wrong that if we do it to somebody, another country. It really is. It's like the Stuxnet thing, folks. They make the Stuxnet. They release it to against Israel or against Iran. I'm not sure if that Stuxnet was against the centrifuges or the other thing, right? But they use that, and it takes down our enemy temporarily. But then our enemy reverse engineers it and uses it against us. So any Republican that says, "Oh, yay, I'm an establishment Republican. I voted for John. I support John McCain and all, or yay. I voted for Obama and I support Obama, and this is owned by Obama's national security advisor. Are you people serious? Are you serious, folks? They will turn around just because something works for you today. They'll turn around and use that on you tomorrow, quick as crap. And it is powerful stuff. It's this is potentially one of the most powerful weapons mankind's ever created. It has the ability not to blow through a million people up like a nuclear bomb. It has the ability to influence a billion. It has the ability to influence elections all over the world. It has the ability. Jones Group, General Jones owns Jones Group International. That is a largely Saudi lobbying firm. Jones Group largely lobbies for Saudi Middle East oil, Middle East energy, Ukrainian energy. How do you know if everything your leaders, not all of your leaders, but these people have been telling you about Russia? And I don't know either way, right? But how do you know if the things you're being told about Russia is because they are a real domestic threat to our country, or if it's because General Jones wants a bigger wine cellar and is merely trying to influence the price of energy in the Middle East and in the Ukraine to benefit his clients? They draw these lines. Look at the Podestas. The Podestas, the head of the CIA. They're just big lobbying people now. The ShadowNet was turned into a company called ClearForce. It's like the next generation thing. I've got a bunch of information on that. ClearForce takes components of the ShadowNet, takes other components, the ability to scan social media on mass scales, mass surveillance of social media, mass surveillance or mass, and then they combine all of that with real-time criminal background records, real-time financial, all of these things. It's the ShadowNet on steroids. And then they use that information to build behavioral profiles. And with those behavioral profiles, you could find a needle in a haystack, right? You could search 50,000 profiles and find that one person that could be manipulated into walking into a church in Australia and just start shooting Muslims. Why? To create chaos, to change the narrative. You could also do that. You could also use that to influence terrorists to blow things up in the Middle East. You could influence it you could influence kids to go through a school and start a school shooting. Don't think there's any level of depravity these people won't reach. I worked for them for 8 years. Kind of responsible for this, and I'm trying to fix it. I'm trying to do it in a way that doesn't get me thrown in jail, because I'm not releasing anything. I'm not saying anything that's violating any national security. This was a commercial. I showed you the frickin' flyers. If it can be on a damn flyer, that's passed out publicly. You're not violating national security. These people are using our government. They're using the trust and the positions of power that our government gave them, just like Hillary Clinton with her emails, with her email server. She should have never had that. She just thinks she's above the rules. They all do. This is bad, Facebook. We need to see what happens. Y'all need to push this to Facebook. I'll be surprised if Facebook keeps me online much longer. I'll be surprised if I'm even alive for much longer. This is real serious stuff. That's why I put it out there. I don't want to keep this in my head. But listen, folks, I'm going to sign off here now. But I've been telling you for 4 years now that this was imminent, that these people could not, I knew these people were not going to be able to resist using this for their personal gain. It was a weapon developed by for our military, by our military. Do we really want things like that to be commercially available, to be used, to be sold and profited by our former NATO Supreme Allied Commander? You know, he was doing these defense contracts while he was the NATO Supreme Allied Commander. If I was Russia, I'd be kind of pissed off at that. We had an opportunity post-perestroika to work with Russia to help forge and help shape a new constitution for them, a new government, a new democracy. We had that opportunity, but we spoiled that. We blew that. I get it. Was it our job, our responsibility? No. We didn't have to? No. That's a good argument. That's a good debate. I do find, though, I do kind of believe that there are things that we could have done to help these people have better lives, so that the black markets and the crime and the syndication and the syndicates and people like Putin were not what replaced the old Russia. We had that ability, but we lost that ability, right? Because we missed out an opportunity there. And now it's these same people who missed that opportunity. These people have been in charge 40 plus years, but now they're using this stuff to cause dissension. And I don't care if President Trump does have a relationship with Russia or doesn't. I personally think that when it comes to dealing with North Korea, Russia could be a great ally with us. Trust and verify, right? I'm good with that. My second wife, full disclosure, she was Russian from Novosibirsk. Russian people are good people for the most part, just like Americans are good people for the most part. We have some bad elements within our government. That's undeniable. So does Russia. So does a lot of countries. I thank you all very much for tuning in. This is impossible to do financially for us. It's a huge burden. It doesn't cost a penny to subscribe to this. We've just started this. Subscribing does help, although it's not my goal. I want to get you, once you guys get this stuff figured, once you guys take over from this, I'm done. You won't even be seeing me. Right? Take this up, people. I can't fight this alone. You need to hold Facebook accountable for this. We need to drag them back in there. We need to drag all these people in there, because they've been lying to us. How do you jive what Facebook said in congressional testimony with what they turned around and did? How do you jive what Obama says about, I can't believe we could have influenced an election, with when I built that very capability for him. Taxpayers built that. Taxpayers paid for that. And I have a 95% belief that it was used, that the ShadowNet, components of the ShadowNet, and the people behind it used it to influence the 2016 presidential election. I believe they used it to influence the 2010 Ukrainian elections. I believe they used it to influence the Michael Brown riots in the U.S., although I don't have a lot of evidence for that. But the fact that I suspected it, and the fact that Facebook confirmed it during their congressional testimony, should tell you something, folks. Thank you very much for tuning in. Hope you appreciate the fact I did not use one cuss word. Sweating like a... Whoa, won't say that. Thank you very much, folks. Really do need your help. Please go to victimoftheswamp.com. Please share. Please like. We got an Indiegogo site link right top of it. It's the link at the top of every one of our pages. Right now we got $160. Got 17 days left. Could use a new microphone if you don't like how things are going in and out when they're starting it up. We need a mic deck. We need a lot of stuff here. We need a computer that actually has more processing capability, although I've done pretty good with making what I got here work. If you could see this, you'd be blown away. but I'm still on guard, folks, and I'm trying to warn you. I'm trying to awaken you. All right? It's time that Americans wake up. It's time we have our own awakening. Thank you very much. God bless.
Guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. Our toil, resources, and livelihood are all involved. So is the very structure of our society.
Yeah, I don't get that, man. They go all this trouble to get here, and then come here and vote Democrat.
The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of the combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take them for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals.